Stop Now, a social experiment enterprise. Stop, listen, share. Everyone can make a difference. We are on a mission. Everyone should do something greater in their lifetime. Change the future. Be a proud member. Join us to support, volunteer, and donate. Stop Now. Welcome to Stop Now. I am Nate.
Hello there. I'm Gary, and we're back with a new story for this week's talk show.
What do we got this week, Gary? Any interesting stories?
Well, of course, Nate, on Stop Now, we bring you nothing but the best stories.
Wow, that is great and interesting to know. And I am super excited to be a part of this show, Gary.
That's great, Nate. Glad to hear it. On today's episode of Stop Now, we bring you another episode that has been a major bone of contention in recent times.
Ooh, wait. Okay, am I allowed to take a guess?
Of course, Nate. But I'm pretty sure you wouldn't guess this one easily because I had to dig deep to get this particular topic for the show today.
Challenge accepted, Gary. What other issue has been on the rise in recent times, if not the issue of cryptocurrency or COVID-19?
Oh, Nate, you never miss the opportunity to tease me. But like I said, you definitely wouldn't be able to guess the topic for today's show. Let's not waste any more time and go straight into the details of today's discussion.
All right, okay, I get it, man. Let's go.
All right, so on today's episode, we bring you the issue of racism in America, visa ban, and the continuation of the ongoing story of the H-1B visa from the last episode.
Oh, I see. So this is getting serious, or are you just trying to be funny here, Gary?
No, Nate. Today's episode will be divided into 3 segments based on the topics we have up for discussion. Now, let's get right into the stories. Can you help me and the listeners understand more about the issue of racism and its origination?
Yes, certainly. So racism, as we all know, didn't just start recently. It has been an issue that's been tried to be controlled from ages past. You know, the first utterance of the word racism was by Richard Henry Pratt. And racism was the belief that groups of humans possessed different behavioral traits corresponding to physical appearances. And it can be divided based on the superiority of one race over another.
Yeah, so technically, racism is as a result of a quest to show superiority.
Yes, that's part of it, Gary, but there is so much more to it. Like, the term racism was not initially formed to be meant that the way it is used today.
What do you mean?
Well, in the 19th century, many scientists subscribed to the belief that the human population could be divided into races. And so the term racism was a noun describing the state of being racist, i.e., subscribing to the belief that the human population can or should be classified into races with different abilities and different dispositions, which in turn may motivate a political ideology in which rights and privileges are differentially distributed based on these racial categories.
All right, so this is becoming interesting by the minute.
Yeah, and however, the present assumption of racism, it's different, right? The present assumption of racism is as a result of early race theorists. They generally held the view that some races were inferior to others, and they consequently believed that the differential treatment of races was fully justified.
So the actions that are being carried out in recent times are not actually racism, as the word might imply.
Yes, you're right. And as history indicates, the popular use of the word racism is relatively recent, Gary. The word came into widespread usage in the Western world in the 1930s, when it was used to describe the social and political ideology of Nazism, which treated race as a naturally given political unit. It is commonly agreed that racism existed before the coinage of the word, but there's not a wide agreement on a single definition of what racism is and what it is not.
So, Nate, since racism can't be used to describe the present actions of people, What would be the perfect word to justify their actions?
That is a great question, Gary. To me, the perfect word to describe their actions should be racial discrimination instead of racism.
So there is a broad distinction between racial discrimination and racism?
Yes, the term racial discrimination should mean, any distinction, exclusion, restriction, or preference based on race, color, descent, or national or ethnic origin that has the purpose or effect of nullifying or impairing the recognition, enjoyment, or exercise on an equal footing of human rights and fundamental freedoms, in the political, economic, social, cultural, or any, public field. That's what it means to me, Gary.
That's very interesting, Nate. So for decades, we've been misinterpreting two different words to mean the same thing.
Pretty much.
So what are the effects of racism? I mean, racial discrimination in the recent times?
Well, in recent times, racial discrimination has had its effect on so many countries, with America, obviously being the center of it all. Racial discrimination on display in America in recent times has risen, and it has caught the attention of a lot of blogs, a lot of sites, and a lot of articles.
Can we go ahead and hear a few of these articles?
Sure, but as we usually do, we have to protect the identity of the bloggers and these articles written. So we would be quoting the articles without obviously addressing the names of their authors.
Yeah, of course. Safety of everyone is our major concern.
Absolutely. So from a recently published article, it does not look like the issue of racial discrimination in America will end anytime soon. The article states, and I quote, "American racism is alive and well. In recent times, the issue of racial discrimination, and the one that caught the attention of the political issue that was on the rise, of course, was the issue of George Floyd."
Yeah, can you tell us about the story?
Yes. So George Floyd was a major victim of this racial discrimination, Gary. He suffered to the point of death.
To the point of death?
Yeah, to the point of death, because based on the accounts from eyewitnesses, based on video footage, and based on official statements, here's what we know so far, Gary. It began with the report of a fake $20 bill. A report was made on the evening of May 25th when George Floyd bought a pack of cigarettes from Cup Foods, a grocery store. And believing that the $20 bill used was counterfeit, a store employee reported it to the police. Now, George Floyd had been living in Minnesota for several years after moving there from Houston, Texas, so they knew him in the community. And he had been recently working as a bouncer in the city. But like millions of other Americans, he was left jobless by the coronavirus pandemic. So upon receiving this call, the police got to the store and George Floyd was restrained by officers, while Officer Chauvin placed his left knee between George Floyd's head and George Floyd's neck. And for 7 minutes and 46 seconds, Officer Chauvin kept his knee on George Floyd's neck.
Wow.
Now, the prosecutor report says that the duration was initially given, as 8 minutes and 46 seconds. But the Minnesota prosecutors corrected that figure 3 weeks after the passing of George Floyd. So the transcripts and the body cam footage from Officer Lane and J. Alexander Kung show Floyd said more than 20 times, Gary, more than 20 times that he could not breathe as he was being restrained.
Oh, man.
And during this time, he was also pleading for his mother, his mother who had already passed, begging, saying, please, please, please. And at one point, Floyd told the officers, "You're going to kill me, man." Floyd said, "I can't breathe, man." He said, "Mama, I love you. Mama, I love you. Tell my kids that I love them. I'm dead."
Wow.
No, this is all reports from eyewitnesses and what a female bystander had told the police. She told the police, "His nose is bleeding. Come on now." And 6 minutes into that period, Gary, Floyd became unresponsive. And he was pronounced dead about an hour later.
Wow. Nate, that's really a horrible story. Very horrible and very painful way to die.
It's it's painful and it's something, it's a horrible story, Gary, but it's something that people need to talk about because the issue of George Floyd, coupled with all of the other racial treatments going on in America, led to the initiation of the Black Lives Matter social movement. It's a movement that has stood up to fight against the discriminative treatments given to blacks in America. It was founded back in July of 2013.
Wow, that's very interesting, Nate. What effect does this issue of racial discrimination have on visa ban and immigration services?
That is another nice question, Gary. So when we look at those issues, racial discrimination has played a major role in the issue of visa ban and immigration services. Just by glancing at the front page of nearly every newspaper, it's clear that our current system fails to meet today's immigration reality. The issue of travel and visa ban, as expected, had a lot of impact on a lot of Africans and Asians intending on traveling into this country.
Wow, that's right. Moreover, the ban created more trouble for families and kept them separated during the pandemic.
Yeah, Gary, I was shocked, right? I was shocked. It takes a lot to shock me, Gary, but I was shocked and surprised with last week's story of the H-1B visa holder. You left it with the suspense of DOL sending letters and not even naming the company that did this to the victim.
Yeah, of course. We plan to bring the victim on the YouTube live show to explain his position and what happened exactly to make the real story more authentic and give him the opportunity to get justice.
Absolutely, man. Yes, let us do that, Gary. And, did he agree to that? Because obviously we don't want him to feel pressured to tell his story.
Yeah, certainly. We requested everyone to share the story only if they wish to, and we provide this platform to get justice and bring in the change.
So we do need to bring up some charges for some of these officers.
Yeah.
But that's a different story for a different day, Gary. But
we'll leave that to others for the
yes.
charging.
But let's reveal the company name, who did this, and what happened next to him. Will he get justice?
Yeah, sure. He did not get justice yet. I can't believe myself that this actually happened and don't know where this is going and why DOL is dragging the feet.
What do you mean by that?
Well, DOL investigator called the victim to inform over the phone that they can't find any evidence to proceed and asked him to hire a private attorney and sue the company for violations.
What the? Wow. Are you joking?
No, I'm not.
Wow. It seems like it's an open and shut case and so clear what the evidence is. How can they even say something like that? Can you tell us who said that?
Yeah, of course. All the case story is being published in our website blog, along with the evidence for all to review.
Perfect. All I can say is that this is what racial discrimination means, Gary. A victim struggling for more than 4 years to get justice. If that doesn't show you that racial discrimination is real, I don't know what will.
Yeah, well, it's not just that. We have more stories similar to this and with Fortune 500 companies. I really don't know how we're going to deal with it all.
Yes, well, unfortunately, Gary, we are running out of time and we've come to the end of another wonderful episode of our talk show.
Yeah, okay. All right, folks. Well, thank you very much for your time and ensure that you stay tuned to our show as we bring interesting yet crucial topics for discussion. Stay safe and don't forget to use your masks and to sanitize. Be safe and take care.
Yes, thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye, all. Stop Now, a social experiment enterprise. Stop H-1B Visa, a campaign to end modern slavery. True stories, life-changing moments. Stop, listen, share. Join us. Call us. Together, we create the future. YouTube live talk show, coming soon.